Wagwan people. Ringeko nam yoho, ringeko nam yoho, ringeko nam yoho, ringeko. Ringeko nam yoho, 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 ringeko. Ringeko nam yoho, 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 ringeko. Yo, yo, yo. So I'm just going to chant for a few minutes, just let a few people in, and we're going to dive in deep. Myoho Renge Konam, 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 Renge Konam, Myoho 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 Renge Konam. Renge Konam Yoho 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 Renge Ko Renge Konam Yoho 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 Renge Ko Renge Konam Yoho 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 Renge Ko Renge Konam Yoho 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 Renge Ko Renge Konam Yoho Renge Ko Yoho Renge Konam 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 Yoho Renge Ko Renge Konam Yoho Renge Kyo Nam Yoho Renge Kyo Nam Yoho Renge Kyo Nam Yoho Renge Kyo. Yo, people. Wow, thank you for being here. Can you all hear me? Perfect. I'm very, very, very honored to be blessed with Ryan tonight, who's someone who's been on my Buddhist journey since the start. I'm gonna just check if I can unmute you, Ryan, so that you can get involved. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. While he's checking it out. So today's plan is we're gonna go through the start of this book.
Testing.
Yes,
Testing.
yes, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello.
Yeah. I can hear you.
Good. There you go. 7th or 8th combination got there.
So, Mark, Kate, Heidi, Sally, and Lucy, thank you. Wagwan, Mark, thank you for being here. A show of hands, anyone brand new to this book, specifically in this practice of Buddhism? Heidi, Kate, Mark, I saw you were chanting at the start, so you're new to, you're not new to chanting. Let me unmute you if you're.
Yeah, full disclosure, I'm an SGI member, but I haven't studied this book, so I'm excited to do so.
Yes, okay, incredible. So just to let people know, this is recorded. This isn't isn't an SGI official meeting. One thing that I love doing is trying to just make Buddhism accessible to people outside of kind of the strictness of a district meeting. You know, as much as that's amazing, and I will 100% recommend people, you know, find your local district and all of that beautiful stuff. I'm offering just my unique expression on Buddhism, and you know, I'm doing it with my platform. And Ryan also is an SGI member, as I am an SGI member. We've both had leadership positions. He was actually my male leader. I was his vice. But again, me and Ryan would just sit there for hours and just talk about stuff and realize there's so much that can be discussed. And there's why shouldn't we speak on Zoom and speak about these things as well? You know, outside of just, you know, come to your district meeting. So that being said, hey Lucy, beautiful to see you there. Thank you for being here. So this is what we're going to do today. And just to let people know kind of my journey quickly, I did a book called The Evolving Buddha, maybe about 5-6 years ago, with a man called Johnny Gilbert. He also is an SGI member, but again, he wanted to create a book. It's not sold in the SGI. You can buy it on Amazon and all these places, just about his own unique expression of Buddhism. So I did that book study and I read every single word of that book. I've also done it with a few other books. This book, The Buddha in Your Mirror, today we're going to go through the foreword and chapter 1. But moving forward, every chapter, every time that we meet up every week or whenever we can meet up, I'm going to be analyzing the chapter, but we won't be reading each chapter together. The reason being is for copyright reasons. I don't actually have the permission to like read the entire book. So I would never want to cause any problems. However, I am going to be reading the first chapter today, the foreword, and then every week. It's like a challenge. If you can keep up, read the book and then meet us, and then we're going to dive in deep. So we're going to discuss all of it, but I just don't want to create any like copyright issue with this specific book, where before I've had the owner, like the author's permission to read the entire book. So that being said, are we all ready to kind of dive into the foreword with Herbie Hancock? Incredible. Perfect. Ryan, I might ask you to read like small little bits, you know, as if it was a meeting, if you can see the screen. And if you got the book, I would recommend if you got the book with you, read it along, just like hold it, like have a cup of tea, just get cozy. But if you don't have the book, I am gonna share it because I've purchased it today on Kindle so we can see it. So let's have a look. Let's start. Cool. Is that clear enough for everyone? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Beautiful. So this is the book, The Buddha in Your Mirror, and the reason I'm doing this is because I turn on the news right now and it's just so hard to navigate, and there's so many philosophies and so many different ways of reaching the top of the mountain. But for me, in my 32 years of life, my sharpest tool is Buddhism. And not just Buddhism, it is through the monk Nichiren Buddhism who refined true Buddhism, because as it is with all faiths, yeah, it got disturbed, it got, you know, the power got distributed to the priests, and ordinary people forgot that the Buddha is within you. You know, Christ is you. Christ consciousness is within you. As soon as we start giving all our power out externally to these deities or to the priests or to these monks or to these gurus, we've lost it from the start. And we're going to dive into this a little bit today. So just to show this again, this is just the copyright information just for this book. So no butter notes. Let me just move this out of the way so I can read this. I might need to make this slightly bigger for myself. 1 second. Okay, that's better. All right, so this is foreword by Herbie Hancock, someone that I've trained under for about 10 years. His name's Eddie Capone, amazing person. He was one of the first Black Buddhists in South London. He's been around Herbie Hancock, got guidance, practiced with him. So this all means quite a lot to me. It's very it's really incredible. So let me just start here. No butter notes, a foreword by Herbie Hancock. Why have you, no matter what your realm of life, picked up this book? Even for a moment, wouldn't you agree that no matter where we're at, we can always be a little bit happier? And while we may be feeling pretty good today, sometimes without warning or explanation, we just end up in a funk. Even those of us who may appear to have been blessed in this life have our periods where the good things around us still don't allow us to live with joy. There has to be something more, something deeper. But even when by all appearances things are going well, we often don't recognize that we are experiencing problems. When I think about the many contemporaries and friends in my profession who have come and gone, the legends who have passed from this life too soon, whose musical notes were silenced through losing the battle of illness or drugs, the need for a method to acquire lasting happiness is obvious. The realities of the jazz life, and I'm sure it's the same for many occupations, are not easy. By the way, if no one knows, Herbie Hancock is like this major jazz musician. It takes a lot of strength, physical and spiritual, to tour constantly, sometimes traveling to a new country every day for months on end, to continue to tap one's creativity, to maintain healthy relationships. In the midst of life's stark realities on both the professional and personal levels, it has been the profound yet easy to grasp, life-affirming philosophy of Nichiren Buddhism that has sustained me for some 29 years. But let's back it up a bit. I wasn't born into a rich family. In fact, we were quite poor, but I was fortunate in that we always had food on the table. Even more important, I had the support of parents who encouraged me to live in my dreams, and they supported those dreams to the best of my ability. Though they couldn't afford to send me to college, they did anyway, somehow. Along with the support of my parents, my life was largely guided by various mentors I've had the fortune to encounter along the journey today. 3 of them especially stand out. The first was the second piano teacher I ever had, Mrs. Jordan. Way back before jazz was a part of my consciousness, I was a 9-year-old boy with 2 years of piano study under my belt. This was in Chicago, 1949. I can't remember now how I was introduced to Mrs. Jordan, but to this day, I can't forget what she taught me. After hearing me play a bit, she said, yes, it was clear I could read music. But at that very first meeting, she asked me if I was familiar with things like touch, nuance, phrasing, even how to breathe when I sat at the keyboard, concepts that were alien to my experience. When I said no, she said, I'll show you. And she sat down and played a piece by Chopin that was so gorgeous my 9-year-old jaw dropped. Mrs. Jordan taught me that playing the piano was so much more than just knowing the notes. Watching her play with such warmth, such dignity and such passion, I was able, without realizing it, to pick up the ideas that the piano was an instrument for self-expression. Through her honesty and continued efforts to find the means to explain to a young boy that which might otherwise remain ungraspable, Mrs. Jordan fired the desire to learn. And as a testament to her teaching abilities, in just about a year and a half, I won a major Chicago piano competition and got to play a concerto with the Chicago Symphony at Orchestra Hall. Studying with Mrs. Jordan was the first time I remember seeing a new dimension in something seemingly familiar, and the impact of that has stayed with me all this time. In fact, I think that's what great mentors do. They excite within you a capacity to look at something in a new way, a way that resonates particularly within you. What I always got from Mrs. Jordan, without realizing it at the time, was a sense of how one's personal sincerity could have a permanent impact on another. Miles Davis was that kind of mentor too. He was a singular character who was so fully the master of his instrument and his music that he solidly did things the way he felt they ought to be. Miles took a lot of flack for turning his back on audiences in performances, but those of us in his band saw clearly that he did that in order to direct us in subtle ways. A head shake here, a slight gesture with his horn there. As he continued his own ferocious playing, Miles just forged ahead and never felt the need to explain himself. Those of us who worked with him and for Miles got a taste of his particular genius, which went beyond his playing. What was really special was his ability to draw all of us into the process of completely integrate whatever we brought to the table. He told us that he was paying us to do our practicing right there on the bandstand, that he was hiring us to create, to contribute something. And on stage or in the studio, he proved repeatedly that whatever we came up with, he could seize it and make something happen. On many occasions, he saved our butts with the ability turning our outright mistakes into musical themes he could instantly incorporate into whatever he was cooking. And when we got stuck, he had the knack for getting us out of it in his own particular way. Once, when I was faced with the musician's equivalent of writer's block, Miles leaned over and mumbled in my ear, "Put a B in the bass." A bit puzzled, I tried to work in what I thought he was talking about, and sure enough, a spark started to happen, which fed him, which in turn fed me, leading to a musical dialogue. Another time when I was in a rut, he dropped this on me: "Don't play the butter notes." That sent my mind reeling. Finally, I assumed he was telling me to somehow avoid the obvious. I'm not even sure to this day if Miles really knew what he meant, but I took it to mean remove the thirds and seventh from the chord I was playing. Without getting too technical musically, let's just say this opened up the sound so that whomever I would be improvising with could make much more of a contribution to exploring the possibilities of a melody. Whatever Miles had in mind, the guidance worked. We caught fire. To me, that's an example of greatness in leadership. Instead of dictating, he stimulated me to find the solutions within myself. The whole time supporting me with the full confidence that he could harmonize with all of us and get us to create harmony together. Miles continuously made us feel that each of us had something unique that only we could contribute. He did this with few words. It was mostly through his behavior. I couldn't fully realize this back then. I saw it only after I started my practice of Nichiren Buddhism. Which leads me to the third mentor who impacted my life, and I'm sure the life of Ryan's. As the president of the Soka Gakkai International, his name is Daisaku Ikeda. He has opened up so many doors for 12 million people in 163, it's now 192 nations to gain access to the principles laid down in this book. To me, Daisaku Ikeda is a man who encourages the creative expression of the individual, the harmonizing and blending of the people of the planet. He is working to attain peace, teaching everyone how to have at their fingertips the key to daily renewal, refreshment of spirit, happiness, and the building of good fortune. Applying the lessons in his myriad writings and lectures on how to harness the power of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, which is what I was chanting at the start, the mystical principle that drives the entire universe. I have knocked down wall after wall of obstacles in my life and seen the fulfillment of so many of my goals and dreams. I am solid in my conviction that I can handle whatever life throws at me. And I also personally feel the exact same, hence why I will give my life to sharing this practice with people the correct way, why I do this evening. As I developed happiness as the essence of my life, through Daisaku Ikeda's shining example of one who never gives up, never succumbs to negativity, I learned from him that any given moment can be looked at from an infinite number of perspectives. Among all those perspectives is the way to perceive a golden path within that moment and a way to perceive a diamond within each person. This impacts everything, from how I might put together certain music on a record I'm making, how I improvise, to how I look at the people I encounter in the various realms of my life. No matter what a person may be exhibiting at any given moment, it is only part of a whole human being. It's only one part of the whole human being. Each person contains the seed of enlightenment within and therefore deserves respect. While it's easy to forget that, especially when encountering the so-called difficult individuals ones find in the show business industry and elsewhere, Daisaku Ikeda's continued example and guidance stands as a means to measure my own behavior and to bring out a better side of others as I strive daily to improve myself. 29 years of Buddhist practice has given me a solid foundation. Looking back, I have to take on my music that I'm, happy with. For me, the joy of playing music goes beyond the applause, the award, the excitement of the fans. Of course, that stuff's nice, but there's something that cuts much deeper. Working with music is more about letting yourself dig into your heart, about having the confidence to be vulnerable and express the vulnerability, that core of your humanness in an open way. It's about being aware of your environment and the other musicians as well as the listeners. It's about pouring stuff out from the inside and manifesting it in the present, letting it flow from the most elevated part of your life. It's the process of doing all of that, not just for self-pleasure, but with the sincere hope of moving something in the lives of others. Helping them feel good about themselves, inspiring them to tap their possibility and achieve their hopes for the present moment and their dreams for the future, to stimulate them to accomplish something new, something great. Woody Hochwender, Greg Martin and Ted Marino have done a terrific job putting this book together. These three gentlemen are also students of Daisaku Ikeda and have had the experience and impact of Nichiren Buddhism by turning his guidance into action. The Buddha in your mirror puts Nichiren's profound concept into readily accessible terms. Whether you're reading this book out of mere curiosity or you have a crying need to elevate your life and circumstances, I encourage you to give this practical advice offered in The Buddha in Your Mirror a solid try. Perhaps the notion of Buddhism seems exotic or far off your own spiritual path, but if you're stuck in a rut, it's time to stop playing life's butter notes and open yourself up to something new in the melody of life. What can you lose except your blues? So, let me take you on this journey. Let me just see if I can see everyone. Does that make sense? as just an introduction, yeah, like how he's used his life story of jazz and how he's found Daisaku Ikeda. And like Daisaku Ikeda, he found that in Miles Davis. I always say to people, sometimes people feel overwhelmed and they're like, I don't like the idea of you having a mentor. I call him sensei. It's Japanese for like a great teacher, right? Especially in the West, it can be quite overwhelming, like this idea that you have this like mentor. But I tell people, if I want to be an amazing badminton player, I need someone that's better at me than badminton to play it. I don't pray to that person. I'm not asking him to save me. I'm just asking him to show me the technique so I can bring that out within myself. And this is something that I found as being a practicing member in the UK. There's been a lot of resistance with people. We call it the mentor and disciple relationship. The idea of that I'm actually happy to call myself a disciple. Again, in the West, disciple comes in this kind of like Abrahamic ideology, or like you're lesser, but in the Oriental philosophies and in the East, a disciple is a profound, beautiful. The baton has been passed over. It's all it is. It's the baton's been passed over. And then I'll pass on the baton to one of my disciples who I always pray will outdo me and will be even more profound and amazing than me. And for me, I've had to just, well, it came quite easy to me having a mentor. But I just wanted to, just explain that, because he's obviously used Miles Davis. And that for me was such, when I read this book 10 years ago, it was beautiful to think, wow, yeah, of course. Imagine being Herbie Hancock. You'd want to be around Miles Davis, just like I want to be around the teachings of Daisaku Ikeda, because it's just profound. And he is the person, he passed away only a few years ago, but he was the person that was the foremost at understanding true Buddhism, because I'm telling you, Buddhism has been chopped up and destroyed, just like it has been with Christianity and in all different faiths. And all the power has been taken away from the ordinary person, all of it, on purpose. And we're here to try and remember that actually we are the Shakyamunis of 2025, So yeah, let me dive in. Ryan, I'm going to get you to just, if you can, just read this, these two quotes on the right.
Let me just zoom in a tiny bit. When deluded, one is called an ordinary being, but when enlightened, one is called a Buddha. This is similar to a tarnished mirror that will shine like a jewel when polished. Nichiren Buddhism. If there is any religion that could cope with modern scientific needs, it would be Buddhism. Albert Einstein.
These are beautiful quotes. The Albert Einstein one, just the idea that Buddhism already is so in tune with just what people have discovered in the 20th century, in the 21st century. Only recently, all these different people have discovered all these different things about the ether, and all of it is confirmed in Buddhism 2,000, 3,000 years ago. And that first quote, when deluded, one is called an ordinary being. An ordinary human, for instance, is just someone that's forgotten that Christ consciousness is within, the Buddha is within. Yeah, there's a saying that we can't even see our own eyelashes. And if you think about it, you can't even see your own eyelashes. And in the same way, you can't see that the entire cosmos is within you, the entire universe is within you. And that's what these ancient teachings have always been trying to tell us and trying to make us remember. So, and it says here, but when enlightened, one is called a Buddha. So it's only when we remember that we are the Buddha. So let's start this. So let me just change my screen up so I can see it. Beautiful. Bird sings, the wind blows, the earth turns, stars flare and die, galaxies spin gracefully through space. Man is born, life lives, grows old and dies. The patterns of existence are mysterious and immeasurable. Who can even begin to comprehend them? Our mundane lives, daily lives, are in a way no less complex. Sorry, I was looking at that note from Ryan. Who can always fathom, for example, the need of a 3-year-old child, let alone the inexplicable demands of one's in-laws or one's boss? During a single day, we rejoice at times while we despair at other times. Our feelings change from moment to moment. Trivial things can make us temporarily happy, while temporary setbacks can make us inexpressibly sad. Worries easily take the place of happiness. Life may be interpreted as a continual battle against problems large and small. Never before in the history of the West, we have so many people turning to the timeless wisdom of Buddhism for answers to the greatest questions of life, as well as to master the problems of daily existence. This is no coincidence, for we live in an age of experimentation and scientific inquiry, and Buddhism has no conflict with the world of science. Indeed, Buddhism has been called the science of life. Certainly, the image and language of Buddhism has been surfacing with increasing regularity in contemporary culture, from movies and pop songs to magazines and television shows. There is the Buddha of the novel The Buddha in Suburbia, or the Dharma of the TV sitcom Dharma and Greg. The word karma has entered the Western vocabulary. There's going to be certain words, by the way, I slightly chop up, I'm sorry, and is blithely applied to everything from health food shakes to nagging relationship problems. Everyone we don't particularly like or understand these days seems to have bad karma, and there seems to be a zen to everything, from playing golf to vanquishing your foes at office politics, or perhaps even folding your laundry. Obi-Wan Kenobi may not be portrayed as a Buddhist per se, but his acronym is wielding the metaphysical force of the epic Star Wars cycle. A mystic power that permeates the entire universe and ennobles its masters, resembles both the Buddhist concept of life force and the legendary power attributed to the Buddhas in ancient scriptures. The actual meaning of these words, from the standpoint of Buddhist traditions, have become somewhat clouded. In the West, Buddhism has long perceived as an elitist or beatnik religion, something to be discussed over espressos along with the radical politics and difficult art. These lasting images perhaps stem from the beat period of Jack Kerouac's The Dharma Bums, the explanatory book.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Jack Kerouac.
Thank you, that's a difficult word. The Dharma Bums, the explanatory books of Alan Watts, and countless literature scenes featuring bongos and satori, the Japanese terms for enlightenment used particularly in Zen. One could easily gain the impression that Buddhism is primarily a system of intellectual abstraction or a means of escaping from the material reality. And this is what a lot of my friends feel when they say they think I'm Buddhist. They think I'm just like in the Buddhist center praying and chanting and just trying to just escape from this. And that is so absolutely not what Shakyamuni wanted. For many, the overriding popular image of Buddhism is that of abstruse and impenetrable mystical teaching studied in monkish isolation, the goal of which is inner peace as an end in itself. There is a famous story about the historical Buddha that demonstrates why this view is incorrect. While walking one day in a deer park in Benares, India, the Buddha came across a deer lying on the ground. A hunter's arrow had pierced its side. As the deer slowly died, two Brahmins or holy men stood over the body, arguing over the exact time life leaves the body. Seeing the Buddha and wishing to resolve their debate, they asked his opinion. Ignoring them, the Buddha immediately approached the deer and drew out the arrow, saving the animal's life. Buddhism is a beautiful philosophy, but above all, it is about action. In the pop images and adaptations of Buddhism are sometimes offhand and imprecise, they nevertheless point to a surprising truth. The language and wisdom of Buddhism are increasingly being applied to the complexities of modern life because they actually seem to fit. Buddhist concepts and strategies, as applied to happiness, health, relationships, careers, and even the process of aging and dying, pertain to the truth of modern existence, the actual pulsing reality of life. Buddhist ideas are entering the mainstream because they contain a descriptive power well adapted to the flux and flow of the modern world, without the weight of a dogmatic morality. Buddhism explains the profound truth of life, but it also provides an immensely practical method for overcoming obstacles and transforming oneself. Because if you're not transforming your life and being happy, it's all just philosophy, it's all just religion, it's all just prayer with no proof. And after many years of searching and chanting Om and Hare Krishna and praying to God and finding Allah, it was nothing was like this for me. So, what you learn in these pages can be applied to every area of your existence: family, work, relationships, health, and it can be applied by anyone. This book has the power to change your life. Although it is not strictly speaking a self-help book, it includes the most time-honored and effective self-help secrets ever formulated, the all-embracing system of thought that is Buddhism. It is titled The Buddha in Your Mirror because of its most fundamental insight: the Buddha is you. That each and every human being contains the inherent capacity to be a Buddha, an ancient Indian word meaning enlightened one, or one who is awakened to the eternal and unchanging truth of life. By tapping into this vast inner potential, our Buddha nature, we find unlimited resources of wisdom, courage, and compassion. Instead of avoiding or fearing our problems, we learn to confront them with joyful vigor, confident in our ability to surmount whatever life throws in our path. This latent potential can be likened to a rose bush in winter. The flowers are dormant even though we know that the bush contains the potential to bloom. It's also like how we know that a butterfly is always within the potential of a caterpillar, always. Whether it comes out or not depends on the circumstances. But on the day-to-day basis, this higher self, this enlightened state is hidden from view. It is the proverbial treasure too close to see as the eyelashes that we can't even see. This fundamental aspect of the human predicament is illustrated in the Buddhist parable, The Gem in the Robe, as told in the Lotus Sutra. It is the story of a poor man who visits a wealthy friend. The house was a very prosperous one, and the poor man was served many trays of delicacies. The friend took a priceless jewel, sewed it into the lining of the poor man's robe, gave it without a word, and then went away. And the man, being asleep, knew nothing of it. After the man had gotten up, he journeyed here and there to other countries, seeking food and clothing to keep himself alive, finding it very difficult to provide for his livelihood. He made do with what little he could get and never hoped for anything finer, unaware that in the lining of his robe, he had a priceless jewel. Later, the close friend who had given him the jewel happened to meet the poor man, and after sharply rebuking him, showed him the jewel sewed in the robe. When the poor man saw the jewel, his heart was filled with great joy, for he was rich, possessed of wealth and goods, sufficient to satisfy the 5 desires. We are like that man. This parable depicts the blindness of human beings to the preciousness of their life and the fundamental life condition of Buddhahood. The purpose of this book is to help you discover this stunning jewel within and polish it till it shines brightly, illuminating not just your life, but the lives of those around you. For Buddhism teaches that one's own awakening or transformation also has an immediate and far-reaching effect on his or her friends, family, and society. This is a key point. Like when you drop the pebble and the ripples, it just transforms so many people around you as well. We're all so interconnected. When we reflect on the lessons of this 20th century, stained by bloodshed and suffering, we must acknowledge that efforts to reform and reconstruct the institutions of society to truly deepen human happiness have come up short. Buddhism stresses interpersonal transformation as the way to promote lasting, sustainable resolutions to world problems. So what does it mean to be a Buddha? The word Buddha was a common noun used in India during the lifetime of Shakyamuni, the historical Buddha. This is an important point in the sense that enlightenment is not regarded as an exclusive province of one individual. The Buddhist Sutra talk of the existence of Buddhas other than Shakyamuni. In a sense then, Buddhism comprises not only the teachings of the Buddha, but also the teachings that enables all people to become Buddhas. The life of the Buddha. Unlike the Western religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Buddhism makes no claim of divine revelation. Instead, it is the teaching of a single human being who, through his own efforts, awoke to the law of life within himself. He was a man who wrote nothing down and about whom we know very little, but what is known has become the catalyst for changing millions of lives. The historical Buddha, whose given name was Siddhartha, one who has achieved his goal, and family name was Gautama, the best cow, was born in northern India approximately 2,500 to 3,000 years ago. Opinions differ as to the actual date, but modern research tends to place the Buddha's birth in either the 6th or 5th century BCE. The timing, while not exact, remains significant. As the German philosopher Karl Jasper has noted, Siddhartha was born at approximately the same time as Socrates in Greece, Confucius in China, and Isaiah in the Judaic world. The simultaneous appearance of these great men, according to Jasper, marked the dawn of spiritual civilization. Siddhartha's father was the ruler of the Shakya clan, a small tribe located near the borders of Nepal. Hence, the Buddha came to be known as Shakyamuni, sage of the Shakyas. Since the written record is scant, the details of his earlier life are sketchy. We know that Siddhartha was born a prince and lived in affluence, and we know that he was endowed with keen intelligence and an introspective nature. As a young man, he took a wife, Yasodhara, who bore him a son, Rahula. Eventually, he forsook his wealthy, privileged existence to pursue a path of wisdom and self-knowledge. What drove him to leave the luxury of home and the security of family is expressed in the legend of the 4 meetings. The young prince is said to have left his palace in Kapelavatsu on 4 different occasions. Exiting from the eastern gate, he encountered a man bent and shriveled with age. Leaving from the southern gate, he saw a sick person. On a third outing, emerging from the western gate, he saw a corpse. Finally, going out through the northern gate, he came upon a religious ascetic. The old man, the sick person, and the corpse represent the problems of old age, sickness, and death. Together with birth or the living self, these conditions are known as the 4 sufferings, the fundamental problem of human existence. Shakyamuni's motive in abandoning his princely status for an ascetic life was nothing less than to discover how to overcome the 4 sufferings. In the manner of ancient Indian arhats, or holy men who wandered the countryside in quest of ultimate truth, Siddhartha began his journey. We know that the path was arduous and filled with physical and mental challenges. He first travelled south and entered Rajadriya, capital of the kingdom of Magdada, where he practiced under the teacher Alara Kalama, who, through meditation, was said to have attained the realm where nothing exists. Quickly attaining the same stage, Siddhartha found his questions unresolved. He turned to another sage, Udaka Ramaputta, who had attained the realm where there is neither thought nor no thought. Mastering this meditation as well, Siddhartha still had not found answers to his deepest questions. As Daisaku Akida, one of the foremost modern interpreters of Buddhism, has written in The Living Buddha, for yoga masters like Alara Kamala and Udaka Ramaputta, yoga practice had become an end in itself. Both yoga and Zen meditations are excellent practice developed by Asian philosophy and religion, but, as Shakyamuni made clear, they should be employed as methods for attaining an understanding of the ultimate truth, not looked upon as an end in itself. Siddhartha then embarked on a series of ascetic practices, including temporary suspension of breathing, fasting, and mind control. After several years of tormenting his body, almost to the point of death, he finally abandoned the rigorous ascetic pursuit that had deliberated him and proceeded to meditate under a type of fig tree, later named the Bodhi tree, near Gaya. Eventually, around the age of 30, he attained enlightenment and became a Buddha. The Buddha's enlightenment. We have about 12 minutes left of this chapter, guys, and then me and Ryan are going to go into this a little bit. The Buddha's enlightenment. It is impossible to know exactly what the Buddha realized beneath the tree, but based on his many teachings, which, like Homer's Odyssey, were first orally transmuted by his followers, we know that sitting under the papau tree, he attempted to reach beyond ordinary consciousness to a place where he perceived himself as one with the life of the universe. It has been recorded that in the early stages of his meditation, he was still bound by the distinctions between subject, himself, and object, exterior world. He was aware of his own consciousness being surrounded by a wall, the boundary of his body, as well as the environment outside of himself. Finally, according to Daisaku Akida in The Living Buddha, Shakyamuni had a clear vision of his own life in all of its manifestations in time. According to the doctrine of transmigration, which has from early times been expounded by Brahmanism, the life of a human being is by no means something limited to the present. Shakyamuni, meditating under the Bodhi tree, clearly recollected all of his previous existences one by one, and perceived that his present existence was part of the unbroken chain of birth and death and rebirth that had been continued through incalculable eons in the past. This was not something that came to him as a kind of intuition, nor did he perceive it as a concept or idea. It was a real and clear recollection, not unlike, though on a very different plane from, the events buried deeply within the recesses of our mind that we suddenly remember when we are in a state of extreme tension or concentration. He understood the true aspect of reality as impermanence. So what does this mean? All things, all phenomena are undergoing constant change. Life, nature, and society never cease to change for even a single moment. It looks as if the desk you're sitting, or the book that you're holding in your hands, or the building you're living in is a solid construct. But they will all crumble someday. Buddhism clearly explains that suffering emerges in our heart because we forget the principle of impermanence and believe that what we possess will last forever. Suppose you have a good-looking girlfriend or boyfriend. Do you spend a lot of time wondering what she or he will look like in 30 or 40 years? Of course not. It is human nature to feel that health and youth will last forever. Similarly, there are few wealthy people who can imagine that their money could somehow be gone. There is nothing wrong with people thinking this way. Nevertheless, we suffer because we have such notions. You may want to keep your sweetheart young and beautiful forever and may make intensive efforts towards making love last. Still, if and when the time comes to depart from your loved one, you will feel the deepest pain. Because people want to accumulate wealth, some will go far as to struggle against others, and if they lose that wealth, they must taste the bitter fruit of suffering. Even the attachment to life itself entails suffering, because we fear death. Buddhism teaches us to recognize these cycles of impermanence and have the courage to accept them. Radical responsibility over our lives. In addition to his understanding of impermanence, the interrelatedness of all things is said to have unfolded in Shakyamuni's awakened mind. The universe and everything in it are in flux, arising and ceasing, appearing and disappearing in an unending cycle of change, conditioned by the law of causation. All things are subject to the law of cause and effect, and consequently nothing can exist independently of other things. This Buddhist concept of causation is also known as dependent origination. Shakyamuni awakened to the eternal law of life that permeates the universe, the mystic aspect of life in which all things in the universe interrelate and influence one another in an unending cycle of birth and death. The substance of Shakyamuni's awakening is explained in the concepts of the Four Noble Truths, which explain that all existence is suffering. Suffering is caused by selfish craving. The eradication of selfish craving brings about the cessation of suffering and enables one to attain nirvana. And there is a path by which the eradication can be achieved, namely the discipline of the Eightfold Path. Here we can see the earliest indications that the process of achieving absolute happiness, emancipated from the suffering of life, is a path or journey. Dispelling ignorance and establishing a correct view are the centerpiece of Buddhist practice. They are also the motivation that initiated a 3,000-year search, beginning with Shakyamuni himself. To elucidate the vehicle or method that would carry a Buddhist practitioner along the path to the cessation of suffering and the attainment of absolute happiness. All the various Buddhist schools and practices have developed in an effort to create such a vehicle. For some time, following his awakening, Shakyamuni remained seated under the Bodhi tree in a joyful state. When he re-entered the world, however, he soon began to be troubled by the thought that his enlightenment to the law of life might prove difficult to communicate, since the depths of his understanding greatly surpassed that of the most advanced spiritual seekers of his day. He prepared his listeners by first introducing them with easy-to-understand parables and analogies. In this way, Shakyamuni gradually awakened those he taught, while adhering to his ultimate aim of showing all people that they possess Buddhahood. As he stated in a telling passage from the Lotus Sutra, "At all times I think to myself, how can I cause living beings to gain entry into the unsurpassed way and quickly acquire the body of a Buddha?" It was no easy task. Shakyamuni spent the remaining 40-some years of his life preaching to troubled people in ways best suited to their understanding. In this light, we see that the idea of Buddhism as the special preserve of holy men meditating on a mountaintop is erroneous. Shakyamuni never meant for his teachings to apply only to a cloistered group of devotees. All the evidence suggested that he wished for his teachings to become widespread and to be adopted by the common man and woman. His lessons were compiled as the so-called 84,000 teachings, which, like the teachings of Jesus, have been interpreted and reinterpreted for centuries. Indeed, the principal problem for Buddhists throughout the millennia has not so much what the Buddha said, but how to put his teachings into practice. How, in essence, to experience the Buddha's enlightenment, his transcendental wisdom, how to become a Buddha's oneself. The road to enlightenment. Today, there are many schools of Buddhism, perhaps even thousands. The British scholar Christmas Humphreys once wrote, "To describe Buddhism is as difficult as describing London. Is it Mayfair, Bloomsbury, or Old Kent Road? Or is it the lowest common multiple of all of these parts, or all of them and something more?" As the Buddhist philosophy gently flowed through India, and this is important, guys, this is why there's so many different schools of Buddhism now, this part here. So as the Buddhist philosophy gently flowed through India, north through China and Tibet, south into Thailand and Southeast Asia, it tended to absorb and be influenced by local religious customs and beliefs. The Buddhism that spread to Tibet and China and eventually to Korea and Japan was called Mayahana, meaning greater vehicle. That which spread southwards towards Southeast Asia and Sri Lanka was called Hinayana, for lesser vehicle, a pejorative term applied by the Mayahanists. The Hinayana school, based on the earlier teachings of Shakyamuni, so this is when Shakyamuni was teaching for the first 32 years of his life, and that first 32 years of his life, that started to go all across the world, and it explains here why they're so strict, and it's because they were practicing from his earliest of teachings, and to this day people are still solidly believing that's how it should practice. So the Hinayana schools, based on the earlier teachings of Shakyamuni, typically emphasized a strict and highly detailed code of personal conduct geared towards one's own personal salvation. The only Hinayana school today is the Theravada, or teachings by the elders. The Mayahana schools emphasize the need for Buddhism to be a compassionate means for common people to attain enlightenment, to search for a practical method that could serve as a vehicle for greater numbers, the greater the vehicle to make the journey to Buddhahood. The profusion of different Buddhist sutras and theories come to be a source of great confusion, particularly in China in the 1st and 2nd centuries. At that time, Chinese scholars were confronted with the random introduction of the various sutras, the many Hinayana schools, as well as the Mayahana scriptures. Perplexed by these diverse teachings, Chinese Buddhists attempt to compare and classify the sutras. By the 5th century, the systemizing of the Buddhist canon had become very advanced. In particular, a Buddhist monk named Chiai Chi, later known as the great teacher Tien Tai, developed the definitive standard known as the 5 periods and 8 teachings. Based on his own enlightenment, which may have rivaled Shakyamuni's, Tien Tai's system classified the sutra chronologically as well from the standpoint of profundity. He determined that the Lotus Sutra, which is what our practice is based on, the penultimate teaching of Shakyamuni, expounded towards the end of his life, which is the last 8 years of his life is when he revealed his ultimate teachings. So I'll say it again. Tien Tai, he determined that the Lotus Sutra, the penultimate teaching of Shakyamuni, expounded towards the end of his life, contained the ultimate truth. Tien Tai formulated this truth as the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. It employs a phenomenological approach describing all the kaleidoscopic emotions and mental states that human beings are subject to at any given moment. The theory of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life holds that all the innumerable phenomena of the universe are encompassed in a single moment of a common mortal's life. Thus, the macrocosm is contained within the microcosm. And that part there, when I read that 10 years ago, it was I don't know if anyone else resonates when they read this, but it's basically the theory of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life holds that all of the innumerable phenomena, so everything that's happening in the entire cosmos, all the way out there, is happening within me. That all the innumerable phenomena of the universe are encompassed in a single moment of a common mortal's life. Thus, the macrocosm is contained within the microcosm. The vast dimensions of life to which Shakyamuni awoke under the Bodhi tree was beyond the reach of ordinary human consciousness. Tien Tai described this ultimate truth as 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, recognizing that the Lotus Sutra was the only sutra to assert that all people, men and women, good and evil, young and old, had the potential to attain Buddhahood within their lifetime. A crucial question remained. How could common people apply this to their lives? Towards that end, Tien Tai advocated a vigorous practice of observing the mind through meditation, delving deeper and deeper until the ultimate truth of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life was grasped. Unfortunately, this type of practice was feasible only for monks who could spend the indefinite period of time contemplating the message implicit in the Lotus Sutra. It was almost impossible for people who worked for a living and had other things on their mind. The full flowering of Buddhism was not to be accomplished until it migrated along through trade routes to Japan. It would not be widely practiced and revered today without the incredible courage and insight of a 13th century Japanese monk named Nichiren, who brought the Lotus Sutra into sharp focus in a way that had a direct impact on people and their daily lives. Modern day Buddhism. Nichiren, born in Japan in 1222, gave concrete and practical expression to the Buddhist philosophy of life that Shakyamuni taught and Tien Tai illuminated. He expressed the heart of the Lotus Sutra, and therefore the Buddha's enlightenment, in a form that all people could practice. He defined this as the invocation of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, based on the title of the Lotus Sutra. His achievement was akin to translating a complex scientific theory into a practical technique, just as Benjamin Franklin's discovery of electricity was not harnessed for practical use until many years later when Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. Shakyamuni's enlightenment was inaccessible for all but a few until Nichiren taught the fundamental practice by which all people could call forth the law of life from within themselves. His realization of this principle had the power to directly affect and move the people who encountered it, heralding in a new approach to the history of Buddhism. He had revealed the ultimate Mahayana teaching, the greater vehicle, by which all people could journey to Buddhism, to Buddhahood. In Nichiren's own word, a blue fly, if it clings to the tail of a thoroughbred horse, can travel 10,000 miles, and the green ivy that twines around the tall pine can grow to 1,000 feet. For the first time, ordinary people could take a journey previously possible only for saints and sages. Nichiren Buddhism has proved itself to be of profound value to millions of people. It was Nichiren who expressed the essence of the Lotus Sutra in a way that enabled all people, regardless of their level of knowledge, to enter the gateway to enlightenment. This was a revolutionary development in the history of religion. While Buddhism began with the teaching of one human being who awoke to the law of life within himself, it came to include the interpretations of that teaching by subsequent scholars and prophets. As we have said, it has come to include the interpretations of that teaching by subsequent scholars and prophets. And as we have said, the word Buddha originally meant enlightened one who is awakened to the eternal truth or law of life, the Dharma. This truth is eternal and boundless. It is present always and everywhere. In this sense, the law of life is not the exclusive property of Shakyamuni Buddha or of Buddhist monks. The truth is open equally to everyone. In the Buddhism described on these pages, there are no priests or gurus, no ultimate authority that decides what is correct or incorrect, what is right or wrong. In this Buddhism, the wall between the priesthood and their laity has been torn down, leading to a complete democratization of the practice, because it is essentially non-dogmatic. It suits the skeptics amongst us. The ultimate and all-abiding law that the Buddha perceived may be another name for some people's concept of God. On the other hand, a person who cannot believe in an anthropomorphic God can see an underlying energy to the universe. The breadth of Buddhism encompasses both views and focuses on the individual. There is no external source to blame and no one to implore for salvation. In Buddhism, no God or supernatural entity plans and shapes our fate. In Western religion, you can bring yourself closer to God through your faith, but you can never become God. In Buddhism, one could never be separate from the wisdom of God because the ultimate wisdom already exists in the heart of every person. Through Buddhist practice, we seek to call forth that portion of the universal life force existing originally and eternally within, what we call Buddhahood, and manifest it by becoming a Buddha. Buddhists become aware of the existence in the innermost depths of the eternal law that permeates both the universe and the individual human being. They aim to live every day in accordance with that law. In so doing, they discover a way of living that redirects all things towards hope, value, and harmony. It is the discovery of this objective law itself, as it manifests within the individual and creates spiritual value, not some exterior power or being. As Nichiren stated in a famous letter titled On Attaining Buddhahood in This Lifetime, your practice of the Buddhist teachings will not relieve you of the sufferings of birth and death in the least, unless you perceive the true nature of your life. If you seek enlightenment outside yourself, then you're performing even 10,000 practices, and 10,000 good deeds will be in vain. It is like the case of a poor man who spends night and day counting his neighbor's wealth, but gains not even a coin. This idea that the power to achieve happiness lies totally within can be disconcerting. It entails a radical sense of responsibility. As Daisaku Ikeda has written, society is complex and harsh, demanding that you struggle hard to survive. No one can make you happy. Everything depends on you as to whether or not you attain happiness. A human being is destined to a life of great suffering if he is weak and vulnerable to his external surroundings. But far from being a bleak, nihilistic approach to life, the Buddhist practice and philosophy are filled with hope and practical solutions to the problems of everyday existence. The philosophy described in this book is so practical that we generally do not refer to it as a religion, although it is one, but as a practice, because most of the people who follow it found it to be extremely useful. So throughout this book, although there will be numerous discussions on the theory and philosophy of modern Buddhism, the emphasis will be on how you, the individual, can use Buddhism as a powerful tool to solve the problems of daily life. As Nichiren quoted from the Lotus Sutra, no worldly affairs are ever contrary to the true reality, and furthermore, all phenomena in the universe are manifestations of the Buddhist law. In other words, daily life is the dramatic stage on which the battle for enlightenment is won or lost. Nichiren taught that common mortals, without eradicating their desire or changing their identity, could attain Buddhahood right here in this world. In an age of skepticism and widespread distrust of traditional faiths and institutions, such as dynamic, self-directed religious practices become all the more valuable. Buddhism is essentially non-authoritarian, democratic, scientific, and based on insight obtained primarily through individual efforts towards self-perfection. But Buddhism also has immediate and far-reaching effects on the society around us. Buddhism is a way of life that makes no distinction between the individual human being and the environment in which that person lives. In its concept of the interrelatedness of all life forms in a complex web beyond complete human understanding, Buddhism has provided a spiritual and intellectual framework for environmental awareness. The Western worldview, as expounded by Christianity and Judaism, tends to be anthropophonetic, placing humanity at the apex of the natural order. Buddhism, on the other hand, views humankind as a part of nature, supporting and giving rise to the notion of bioethics. Since every individual is connected to everything on Earth, the destiny of our planet is influenced by the individual's actions. Most Buddhism is also non-moralistic. In a world characterized by a great diversity of people, cultures, and lifestyles, Buddhism does not prescribe one way of living. There are no commandments. Buddhism accepts you exactly as you are, with all your foibles and misdemeanors, past and present. However, this does not mean that you may lie, steal, or murder. Buddhism depends for its moral force not on a list of rules for behavior, but on an irresistible inner transformation. Buddhist practitioners find themselves acting more gently, compassionately, and with absolute regard for the preciousness of others' lives. This process becomes almost automatic. Buddhism and the cosmos. We've got 2 minutes left, guys, just to let you know. Finally, nothing of what the historical Buddha taught contradicts in any way the discoveries of Galileo and Einstein, Darwin, and Freud. Yet his ideas were formed thousands of years before, without the aid of telescopes, high technology, or even the written word. The Buddhist model of the universe strongly resembles the cosmology accepted today. While the Buddha never talked in terms of a Big Bang, he nevertheless postulated a cosmos that is theoretically consistent with many scientists now propose. In fundamental ways, Buddhist theory accepts the vast dimension and space-time concepts of modern psychics and is even contrudent with the more abstruse realms of quantum theory. Articles on the latest breakthroughs in particular particle physics, for example, bear a remarkable resemblance to the profound impermanence expounded by the Buddha in the Lotus Sutra, the central text of Mahayana Buddhism. A Protheanium scale view of the universe is articulated in the form of what is called a major world system, a sweeping concept that implies both the existence of innumerable galaxies and the possibility of sentient life on planets outside of our own. At the same time, it contains a detailed analysis of life that permeates the depths of the human psyche. Thus, Mahayana Buddhism takes as a basic premise the existence of numerous life-bearing worlds throughout the universe, while at the same time describing Buddhism as the driving force that enables individual human beings to bring about their own spiritual reformation, thereby assuring eternal peace and the long-time survival of civilization. Throughout its 2,500-year history, the spread of Buddhism has been characterized by tolerance, gentleness, and love of nature. As the French scholar Sylvain Lévy stated, Buddhism is justified in laying claim to the honor of having conquered a portion of the world without ever having resorted to violence and without ever having resorted to force of arms. In fact, the goal of Buddhists and an underlying aim of this book is world peace. In Buddhism, we say world peace through individual enlightenment. A peaceful and secure society will result through a process of individual dialogue, person by person by person, until war and its underlying causes vanish from the earth. For all these reasons, Buddhism is set to play a dynamic role in the emerging scientific culture of the 21st century. With that shimmering idea as a backdrop, we will now turn to the idea of individual practice, including the secret law Nichiren discovered hidden in the depths of the Lotus Sutra. Because before we can change the destiny of a world, we must first change ourselves. Boom. Okay, so guys, that was an hour. Incredible. Ryan.
Yes.
I would love if you could to explain a little bit about why, because by the way, Ryan is the most learned individual I know when it comes to like studying all different religions and sutras and philosophies. And what made you land and trust in Nichiren and the Lotus Sutra?
Well, I think just before we go any further, I think, can someone give Heidi a nudge? I think she's fallen asleep.
I think she has. Yeah, it's
Okay.
Bless her.
Well, one of the things that I love about Nichiren Buddhism is that it really directly points to something that I found really profound about Buddhism generally, and it actually comes from the Buddha's last words. Okay, he was 80 years old, and he was in this place called Beluva, and he was talking to his last sort of direct disciple, and he said, "Be your own island, your own refuge. Hang on, with no other refuge. Let the teaching be your island and your refuge with no other refuge." And he kept repeating that idea because the point is he's trying to say is you define your own Buddhism. It's not this didactic, hit you over the head, there's only one way of doing it kind of approach. And this also ties into this idea of, as Indigo said, about this radical responsibility for yourself, that Buddhism gives you no excuses. You can't just say, I am a Buddhist, and that's it. You have to act on it as well. But everyone's environment is different. And this is what's so brilliant about this book is you are seeing your own reflection and you act in accordance with your environment. So you define your actions. You choose to act. And there's no external force making you do anything. So again, like I said, Buddhism, there's a philosopher called Alan Watts who said, Buddhism is the religion of no religion. And what he meant by that is there's no external force that compels you to do anything. You have to take this on board and act. And this ties it into so much stuff. You know, you can connect this to everything. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen the film The Matrix and things like that. And, you know, every other philosophy, you see all these elements, but Nichiren Buddhism comes up in everything because it is about, and it's especially with this book, it is about seeing yourself in the mirror and seeing that reflection. And again, as you said, Indigo, everyone has the butterfly within them. Okay. And the key thing is, and this is something that I think a lot of people overlook with this, is it takes a lot of effort. When a caterpillar reaches its moment where it becomes a butterfly, people just think it weaves the cocoon and then just comes out. Okay. And that takes effort. It has to push its way out. But here's the key thing. The caterpillar has to eat part of the leaf it puts the cocoon on. It's in a precarious position. It's a dangerous thing to do because it involves risk. Because in order to become what you can become, that means putting in all of that effort and taking that on board. No one can take that risk for you. No one can, for example, you guys have all accepted part of the responsibility because you're here in this meeting. No one could come to this meeting for you. You know? So when we embrace this, one of the brilliant things about Nichiren Buddhism is, as you said, radical responsibility. But that doesn't mean you're on your own. For example, we've got this meeting here, we're all going to discuss it. You know, you've got the mentor-disciple relationship, you've got all these books and sources, but ultimately it comes down to yourself. There's no kind of like mystical sky father that's going to grant you wishes or anything in this. You have to act and you have to take it on board. But again, it's unique for all of you. For example, just like no two butterflies' wings have the same pattern, no two snowflakes are the same, no two Buddhists are the same. All this stuff about conformity and there's only one way to get somewhere or one way to be something is nonsense, because the human race is a huge, widespread organism. We all have different personalities. We all look different. All our DNA spirals are different, but we've got all this commonality. So to sum up what has been a long waffle, one of the things I love about Nichiren Buddhism, the reason I sort of chose it as my path, is just this meeting is a microcosm of what Nichiren Buddhism's about. We're all defining ourselves. We're all taking action. We're all taking this responsibility to come here and discuss it, for example. We realize no one can grant us Buddhahood. No, this is not like access, do X and you go to heaven. This is about crafting yourself in the best possible way. And I don't usually like this expression, but it's true. Being your best possible self, being the best version of yourself. And by taking this wisdom that applies to everyone, finding your part in it. We're all playing different songs, but we're all playing music, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'll stop now because I'm waffling. So
No, bro, that was perfect. And when you first came across this form of Buddhism, was it was you quite shocked at how different it was to like the kind of pop art image we have in the West of Buddhism, or like the Dalai Lama, or you have to have your I know you are bald yourself, but you didn't need to be, to be a monk.
Yeah, I mean, one of the brilliant things again is that this is what's called a lay organization. It's in business terms, they say it's a flat terrain. No one is above anyone else. We all learn from each other, which is what you said about earlier about the mentor-disciple relationship. It's not a hierarchy. It's everybody pushing everyone forwards. So it did surprise me to start with, because like most people, I came to it through Tibetan Buddhism, because that's the most sort of like, as you said, pop culture oriented thing. The Dalai Lama, for example, he's considered this sage. I'm not saying he isn't, but he's a sage-like being. But he is the Dalai Lama. He's not just a lama, which is kind of like a priest. He's the Dalai Lama. He's the kind of guy on top, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We don't really have that. We have mentors and disciples, but it's a bit like, so in Buddhism, there's a concept when it comes to enlightenment called annihilation. And that means, and it refers to like the annihilation of self. But the problem is when I first read that sounds pretty spooky and pretty scary. It's because of the way it translates into Western languages. It doesn't mean you don't exist anymore as an individual entity. It just means all the stuff you don't need, like the pain and suffering and everything, you cut all that out because you see reality as it really is. And so coming to Nichiren Buddhism, although there is a lot of poetical sort of text in the Lotus Sutra, it's very, very straightforward. It's kind of like a how-to manual in a lot of ways. And that's the brilliance of it. So it did shock me. I mean, the other way I came to Buddhism as well, literally my first experience of Buddhism, and I'm not saying this to be flippant, it was a TV show called Monkey, which some of you may or may not have seen. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Mark's seen it. It's brilliant. It's actually very, very good as a primer for learning bits of Buddhism. It genuinely, truly is. And it also talks about the greater and lesser vehicles as well, just as a sort of footnote. But that's how I first discovered it. And then obviously I got into Star Wars as well, which got loads of Buddhism in it as well. And then, like I said, it was the Dalai Lama. And I read a lot of that stuff. But when I discovered the Lotus Sutra and Nichiren Buddhism, it was like all of the stuff that makes it hard to access, all of the stuff that is, and I use this word advisedly, but like mystical in a negative way, in a dense, unapproachable way, gets cut out. It's just removed. And what you're left with is, here is a path. You can walk it or you don't have to walk it. But when you do walk it, yes, it'll be tough, but you're walking it your own way. And other people, you know, mentor disciple relationship and your Sangha will be there to help you, but it's about you discovering you. At the end of the path, it's you. Okay? It's like, okay, so if I can just for 2 seconds,
Please.
So in Zen Buddhism, there's a thing called the moment of the thunderbolt or the moment of the thunderclap, depending on how you translate it. And in Zen Buddhism, they have this idea of, no, you can't approach enlightenment. You're either enlightened or you're not. And there will be a moment where bang, thunderbolt, and you're enlightened. And this gets misunderstood. But Nichiren Buddhism really encapsulates it incredibly well, because in the Buddha in your mirror, okay, think of it this way. When you look in the mirror, there's no delay between you and seeing your reflection. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah? You're instantly seeing yourself. Okay? Now, in scientific terms, that's because light travels at 186,000 miles per second. It's, for our eyes, it's like that. When you see yourself in the mirror, when you see yourself through like Buddha eyes, it's instant, like that. You can't escape that reflection, which is like a practical way of talking about that moment of the thunderclap. Because enlightenment isn't just about forgetting isn't just about transcending everything. Enlightenment does start when you look in the mirror. There has to be a beginning point. When Buddha started his journey, he didn't start off enlightened. He had to go and find those four truths. He had to see the sick, the dying, etc. The journey had to begin. But when he was enlightened, when he sat down at that Bodhi tree, bang, there it was. A bit like coming to this meeting. I mean, I'm not saying it's the start of the journey for everybody, but the light from your reflection is hitting your eyes now, and you can't escape yourself. And you either choose to act on that or you don't. Because again, Buddhism helps you with the way and is the way, but no one does any of it for you. But again, you cannot escape your own reflection. It's there all the time. Light is there all the time. And it's a matter of acknowledging that. Sorry, I've waffled again now. So
No, it's beautiful. And I think also this is what a lot of the religions and philosophies in the last 2,000 years have taken the power away from the ordinary person, right, Ryan? So it's like we were saying, all the priesthoods have the power and stuff like that. So for us in Buddhism, it's very clear that, yeah, the Buddha is within. And it's very, then you can see when you look at different practices and stuff, how much people give their power away to a god or to a mentor. There's people that, for instance, they have within this faith, they have an incorrect relationship with sensei, where they're praying to him in a save me way, and it's quite, when of course he's only just a lighthouse for us, just for us to give some guidance. Ryan, there's a question here for you as well. I don't know, you may have seen it, but maybe you could answer it in more detail, because I know you know about esoteric stuff, and I don't know who you are, Samson. Maybe you could share your name. But it says, thank you. How does this compare to esoteric knowledge? Because I am what you are describing, but without studying Buddhism.
I mean, if you could, Samsung, whoever you are, if you can sort of narrow down just slightly what you mean by esoteric knowledge, because that's a vast area there.
Oh, okay. I've seen you've, yeah.
Esoteric knowledge, because that's potentially anything. Because we can talk about all kinds of philosophy here. We can boil it down to, there is no spoon in the matrix. We can boil it down to the red pill and the blue pill. I mean, because it boils down to, for me, it boils down to this: the concept of eshofuni, okay, which is the inner and the outer are as one thing, okay. Who you are and how you relate to your environment changes the environment. It comes down to that. So esoteric knowledge, if you want to, you translate into that, your environment. You take that knowledge and you apply it. Same with Buddhism, okay? They're one and the same. If you're going to, let's put it this way. If you go into a room and you're miserable, that misery will infect everybody. and people will relate to you in a miserable way. They won't want to be around you. They will talk back to you in that kind of way. Yeah. If you go into a room with your Buddha self, people will respond to that. Not everyone responds the same way at the same rate, but your Buddha nature shines out and people relate to that. Same way people want to be around happy people rather than miserable people, if you want to sort of put it into sort of, kind of layman's terms. I mean, we can get into all kinds of things with this because we can get into like sort of the Nietzschean Übermensch idea as well about the person changing the environment by being, if you like, their sort of like better self. There's all kinds of ways of looking at it. I mean, for crying out, we can tie it into Kung Fu Panda when Po discovers the Dragon Scroll and there is no instructions on it because the Buddha was within him all along. There's all kinds of ways of talking about it. But the key thing is this: your choices affect your reality. Your focus determines your reality. I mean, cripes, look at here's one that actually struck me the other day. There's a TV show called Ted Lasso, which you may know of, a comedy. Okay, Ted's optimism and compassion awakens everybody else's potential. Everybody else starts to reflect that. That's Eshofuni. You find the Buddha in others by being the Buddha within yourself. I mean, you can tie it into science, chaos theory. Basically, chaos theory states that the intrinsic alien element enters an environment and changes the environment. Okay?
Wow.
You change your world by being in it and acting in accordance with your Buddha nature. Okay? Now, if you do not hold to that, your environment can change you. So it does work in reverse, but not if you stay true to your Buddha self, if that makes sense. By the way, please raise your hand or make a cutthroat noise if I'm talking nonsense. And,
no, bro, it's amazing. And I think it's like the aim of this practice, or any practice that you're resonating with, is so that your Buddha self is your dominant life state, so that when you walk into every room, you've got a much better chance of drawing out Buddha self in other people. And obviously life is so difficult, it gets tarnished. You have an argument in the morning, you could wake up in the morning and see one thing on Instagram, TikTok, and it's changed the frequency of your vibration. And taking responsibility for your life for me means having a practice I can go to raise the frequency. Because this is a spiritual war we're in. We're being attacked on all levels, from frequencies, from towers outside of, and everything. Yeah. And so to be able to keep our frequency as high as possible is the only chance we're going to have, I believe, in drawing out, like Ryan said, the highest potential in the people around us. It's very clear that so Daisaku Ikeda says, and Sensei and Nichiren, life is like a tarnished mirror. Yeah. It's a mirror. And then when they get tarnished, it gets more and more hard to see over years and years. But having a strong spiritual practice, for us, it is chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That mirror becomes clearer and clearer. And then you're going to be able to see yourself in that mirror clearer and clearer. The actual true version of yourself, which is untarnished and shining and brilliant and beautiful, you see it more and more when you're polishing that tarnished mirror. For some people, that could be yoga. For some people, that could be just walking the dog. It doesn't always have to be practicing Buddhism, but we have to find something. We have to grapple for something in this spiritual war we're in to keep our frequency as high as possible. And then the more we do that, the more everyone around you, it's, the butterfly effect. And it sounds cliche, but it really is. It really works every single time. Only recently I was going through so much, and I had a massive event that I was putting on, and it got shut down. And then I really decided I have to really challenge my life and chant with everything. And I did it. And all of my business partners that day had the best day ever. And I knew it was because from the very first conversation they had with me in the morning, I had already chanted 3 hours. From 5:30 in the morning till 8:30, I'd chanted. And then from that first phone call, I'm like, brrr, and then just bah, 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 bah. And then suddenly my business partner's telling me her boyfriend's just done something because she was in a high vibration, because I was in a high vibration. And so me being the leader of my own life, I take it like it's my responsibility to be this for my team. And does that make sense? Okay, incredible. And any more questions, guys? So I'm gonna round this up in 10 minutes. So we went for an hour and a half. Maybe, I don't know if I could maybe ask Mark if you can maybe explain a little bit about your journey. You don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot at all. Yeah? No or yes? No? Say no more, say no more. It's just nice to see you though, King. I've never seen you in the SGI before. And so it's this is exactly why I'm doing this, to try and just connect with more people, you know, that are either in the SGI or on the outside of it. Because it can be a challenge also to practice Buddhism within an organization, you know. Sometimes it's easier to gather together or to even be on your own. But yeah. Anything else? Tanya, maybe? Sally? Any questions or anything about Buddhism or faith or just even anything about what we're maybe perfect, King? I would love that. Yeah, not even Buddhism, you know, also just anything about how we're facing what's happening on the planet right now. I don't know. And if not, we can love you and leave you. Thank you, Lucy. I appreciate you. Ryan, anything else you'd like to say before we leave on this subject, on kind of just introducing Buddhism, what it means to have a mentor, and what we're going to be diving into?
Yeah, I think one of the key things about the mentor and disciple relationship is you have to let go of your Western way of thinking with it, because as Indigo said, it's not about one person being above the other. Think of it more like different. It's a bit like different parts of a diamond. Yeah, they both reflect the light at different angles. One's not better than the other. They're different, and they learn from each other. Okay, that's the key thing. It's about pushing is probably the wrong word, but so think of it this way: it's about pushing each other forwards and saying, "Oh, what about this? What about this? What about this?" and sharing in this dynamic sort of fusion with each other. So one person's probably got more experience, but the other person will have perhaps the dynamism of not necessarily youth, but a new perspective because they're new to perhaps the teachings. So it's like they're different angles working together, different sides. Okay, it's not one is better than the other. It's not like one gives the other one orders. And the key thing is that the mentor is always wanting the disciple to do better, to learn from their example and to do better and keep pushing forwards. So it's an engine of enlightenment to keep moving together, to keep moving forwards hand in hand. It's not about one being better than the other. Okay, one might introduce the other, but that's where it ends in that relationship. So the key thing here is to remember that when we're talking about this, both have wisdom. And critically, and this sort of blew the top of my head when I realized this, mentor and disciple is not fixed. So it's not one person doesn't stay as the mentor, one person stays as the disciple. Both are both at the same time in different aspects. I might be better at, or I might be more learned in this, but someone else might be more learned in this. So you're constantly sort of switching back and forth. I think Kate has a question, or it's a high five.
Hiya. Yeah, I think like I don't know if I've got a question. I don't even know if I'm going to make any sense really. But like I think I've gone through every sort of like I've gone through going to church. I've gone through looking at spirituality, like going to church and praising a God just never sat well with me. I've sort of like dabbled into Buddhism a little bit, but not much. And I think I find this isn't necessarily a question about the book or anything like that or about Buddhism, but I think what I'm struggling with right now is with the stuff that's going on in the world, like a deep sense of anger within me. I've always been a really fiery person, but like I don't want to be angry because again, it's that vibration. I don't want to have that vibrational of being angry, but like I'm a single mom with 2 kids and I have fire in my belly to like fight against systems and stuff, but it's trying to level that like anger out within me with what's going on. But I've also had a turbulent upbringing and there's a lot of anger there. Does that make any sense whatsoever what I'm trying to say? I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah.
Everyone's so nodding their head. Yeah.
I guess it's like I've done a 12-step program and a lot of it is that I was quite glad that they used in the 12-step program the God of your understanding. So I was quite glad with that. And so for me, it's always kind of been a universal thing. And I'm trying to find, like, if you like, the Buddha in me. But I find it quite difficult because of like set events that have happened to me. But I don't want to be a victim or anything like that. And I don't want to be a woe is me. But if I can find something that can help me, like level, like, yeah, just like raise my frequency, I guess, and just, I find it difficult when it's just like I've been struggling with that, like, oh, I've got a universe, oh, I've got a God, or oh, it's me, or I don't know. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, that was crystal clear. But I've got a lot to say, but maybe I know Ryan will know that I have a lot to say, first of all. But the first thing I want to say personally is I've deeply recognized that I made a choice to incarnate at this exact moment, and so did you as a mother, and your children chose you as a mother. That's even deeper. They were like, wow, I'm gonna have you as a mum when there's literally basically World War III around the corner. Crazy time. There's a book I've read, I don't know if you've heard me speak about it online, called The Coming Times. And it speaks about how, first of all, when you take full responsibility for knowing that you've come into this incarnation, and Kate, I'm going to send you the entire book. I've read it online like this. I'll send it to you for free, man, after this.
Okay, thank you.
We must rise above the duality of what's happening, yeah? If we're in the duality of, and the anger is perfect. The anger is what's making me even do this call right now, because it's because I'm angry at the state of the world that I must keep on going to help people to share this practice that helps to like turn this poisonous anger into the most righteous, amazing anger. Also, I need to say, Kate, the amount of courage that I need to have to do what I'm doing is massive. I can't imagine being a single mother doing that as well. Just to put that out there. Yeah, that is insane, because it's one thing me being brave enough and doing it, but then to also have to raise children as well and see the way that everything's happening and see the totalitarian evilness that's happening in the UK. I'm not sure what country you're in, but even like in here, okay, it's insane, you know, and it's almost like absolute, almost doom and gloom is certified. That's what it seems like. And what hope is there? But having deep faith in knowing that there's a new timeline and there is hope, and even this conversation to me is proof of Jesus returning, in my opinion. It's like we are here to co-create this new timeline together. But the practice, and I would love to, and everyone on this call, if you're not chanting, I would love to challenge you, Kate, to chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for 20 minutes a day for 21 days. 10 minutes in the morning. Same with you, Tanya. If you've not practiced, I'm not sure. 10 minutes in the morning if you can. I know it might be hard. And if you can't do 20, do 10 minutes. And if you can't do 10 minutes, do 5 minutes a day only. Face a wall or a candle. Chant. Put your hands in. Sit in a lotus. Keep your eyes open. The reason I love this practice is we're not trying to meditate and disappear from this realm. We're not trying to unattach ourselves from this realm. It is action-based. How can I bring my highest potential? Because I'm telling you, Kate, it's going to be a long road, this road that we're all on. Yeah, the world that we've incarnated in at this time. And so we need to be in the best and highest life state possible. We don't want to be grappling with the lower 4 or lower 6 life states of anger, because that anger is going to be your biggest gift. That anger is what's keeping your eyes awake when you know that a lot of the mums around you are just going into like NPC mode. Yeah. And so that's what's making you unique, but you don't want it to be disruptive. You said it yourself, there's no time for victimhood anymore, because actually the story, the poison, the abuse, or whatever it's ever been in your life, whatever it's been, it could be financial, all of that you chose. You chose it all because it would be the sharpest way to prepare you for everything that's about to come. On my neck, there's a Buddhist terminology called Hoshaku Kempon, which means cast off the transient, reveal the true. So it's time for Kate to cast off the transient version of who you've been, the ego of Kate, the human that's gone through this story, and to really know. Some people get triggered when I say this, but everything that's happening on this planet, even the darkest stuff, it's all divinity playing out. We are moving into a new timeline. And so all this denseness, this patriarchy, this evilness, this pedophilia, this nastiness, all of it has existed for thousands of years. Now it's just coming to the surface and we have to alchemize it. But we, all of us on this call, 5, 6 of us, we're the leaders of this new age. So we can't afford to drop into the frequency of anger towards what's happening, because we know it's divinity playing out. We know it's the darkness surfacing. If you had a load of dirt at the bottom of a glass and you're pouring fresh water into that glass, that fresh water is like chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for 21 days. All of that dirt it has to come to the surface, and it's going to be muddy. We're currently living through that muddy, turbulent time, but hopefully we can have a practice that allows us to be like still, even in the eye of the storm. And so everything that's around us, we're not like a leaf being blown in the wind. We're actually creating the change. Like what Ryan was saying, we have the ability through keeping ourselves in the highest life state to transform the environment. And also we have to have faith that one individual can make such a profound change. One individual can make such a profound change. The occult, the system, the propaganda is literally trying to make us feel like we're the most insignificant biometric nothingness. And it couldn't be further from the truth. The entire cosmos is within us. And for me, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't be who I am and the leader I'm trying to be, and I wouldn't do what I'm doing unless I had my practice of Buddhism. Truly, because and if you're not, even if it's not Buddhism, Kate, you have to do something every day. If you're going to survive this as a spiritual leader and you can see what's happening in the world, clearly your eyes are wide awake. You have to arm yourself with spiritual tools now, more than ever. More than ever. It's no good having like an EMF protector on the back of your phone, but you're doing no spiritual protection. You know what I mean? Ryan, anything you want to add to that?
I think just sort of bouncing off what you said, actually, not to be flippant, but I would like to quote a personal hero of mine, Spider-Man, and say, with great power comes great responsibility. Everything you've said, Kate, points to someone who cares a great deal about the world. But as Indigo was saying, it's how you transmute that. You've described yourself as being angry, yeah? That was the word you used. Yeah, and that's completely legitimate. There's a lot of terrible things happening in the world. But anger is just a particular label we put on, if you like, energy. You're having a reaction to something because you're meeting force with force. You're meeting the bad things with anger, which is like doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. The key thing is you care enough to feel that way, and I presume you want things to change to be better.
Yep. Yep.
It's a matter of, and through this practice, transmuting that into positive action and thinking, right, I care so much about this world. I want to protect my family and my friends and what have you, and make it better, that it promotes all this negative energy within me, because you're not looking at it through your sort of Buddha filter. Your reaction to it is force meeting force.
Yeah.
And there is like a Buddhist concept. Again, it translates really badly. Surrender. If you surrender to the opposing force, or surrender in front of it, it has nothing to bounce off of. It just goes straight through. It cannot hurt anything. And you are left with your energy that you can use to move forwards and to do something good. Because, for example, this meeting here is a bunch of people choosing to do something positive. We could all sit in our rooms on our own, stewing and being angry about the world. But instead, we're coming together in common cause to learn. What can we do that's better? How can we better ourselves? The fact that you are here in this meeting shows that you have not given in to your anger. You have turned it into something positive, and you've begun a journey on a path. And as Indigo was saying, chant 20 minutes. Keep that going. It's like a spiritual alchemy. Your turn, at the moment, that anger is like a weight, I presume. It mostly is like a weight, like a lead weight. You've got to turn it into that gold, something useful. So every wound you go through, every scar you've got is a wound defeated.
Sorry. I think it's me trying to find that balance as well, because I know that the anger has a purpose and a fire within me, because I think 2020, 2021, I was loving life. The pandemic was just what pandemic? I was on fire. I was traveling around the country. I didn't care. Nothing was stopping me. I was I'm going everywhere. I'm loving life. And then I fell back into that sort of mundane, working too hard, just surviving. And then I guess it's that saying in the mirror, I'm angry with myself, maybe more than the world, because maybe the world doesn't is just reflecting the anger within me. And because I know what's going on, I know what's happening, I have plans, I have things that I'm doing, but I'm not doing them. I'm just sort of sitting here. It's almost like I'm waiting. And so Yeah.
Sorry.
I just feel like if I can get that, like something that I can just kick me up the ass.
You sound like I call people like in this vibration sleeping lions. You're ready.
Yeah.
You're ready. You just need to
Yeah.
go. You that push over so you can just boldly live exactly how you want to. Like that freedom, that emancipation you felt in 2020, as many of us felt. It was like, oh my God, life doesn't have to be this way. This is like I can be creative in the world. And then and then it's like you're missing that feeling. It's like I've got to experience it for a little bit, and now I'm back into like the mundane. But it's almost like something within you's screaming, we're heading towards something major again. And like, do you want to make preparations now in peace times, or do you want to remain, kind of like stagnant and still, and and it's almost like not having the courage maybe, but you're doing that now. But a lot of people are feeling this. This feeling stuck can be quite a negative energy in like on the chart,
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I just ask Kate one quick question? Did anybody force you or control you into going to this meeting?
No.
So you chose. You made a choice. So it'll be interesting to see what is it you're going to choose to do tomorrow.
Get up in the morning and chant.
So have you ever chanted before, Kate, by the way?
I've done a little bit, yeah. I find it really difficult. Like I've done meditation stuff, but it was really interesting you saying when you said about we're not here to get away from this world. So that's really interesting that you've said that, and that's kind of like stuck in my head a little bit. I've dabbled in and out of things, but I'm a little bit of a control freak, or like I struggle with surrender. I really struggle with it because my whole life I've fought for various different reasons, and I don't want to use that as an excuse, but I find it so hard to let go.
Yeah.
So hard.
I'm telling you now, we are being called collectively now, people of this frequency and quality of energy. We are being called to now release that kind of weight that we've had to hold, the walls, the rigidness, the heaviness, to protect ourselves. And it has been there perfectly. It had to be. We wouldn't be here now. But we're being called to, it sounds so new age and cheesy, but we're being called to step into our light bodies a bit more. And that means, and surrender is a massive part of that, because it's like, okay, so like, everyone could be going right, and then your heart's telling you going left, but do you have enough faith to go left, knowing that I surrender with the flow of the universe? That's what I trust more than what my egoic mind's telling me, like, oh, I should do this though. Do you know what I mean? And that's when it's like I trust in the cosmos, the universe. But that's also because you can accumulate that faith. So like when you do this tomorrow, Kate, I know you've chanted before, but consider this like a reset. Yeah. So like I said, 21 days, if you miss like your 10 minutes on one day, then try and have the strictness to include that the next day. Just try and really try to, as much as you can, do 21 days of practice, and be so friggin' selfish. Don't chant for like Gaza or all of these things which are so far away from us. Chant for something right in front of your child. I'll give you an example. I was with a friend in Wales, and her little daughter came next to me and said, I want to chant. And I said to her, I want to prove to you how powerful this is. Let's chant for something. And she said, she was thinking, I said, let's chant for you to improve your reading, the grading. You get different grades in school. So cool. She's chanting with me for 5 minutes. She's chanting strong, little Welsh girl. That morning, her mum comes back from school, and she's like, her mum's like, what the fuck, this is mad. And they've just given her something like a letter saying that you've been picked to like be part of like an elite reading group. There's no way in the world that that's a coincidence. The day that Indigo's sitting next to her and I'm chanting with her, and that's called actual proof. And that's why I love this practice as well, because Daisaku Ikeda, Nichiren Daishonin in the Buddha, he said, this is not about blind faith. Don't trust Indigo, don't trust me, don't trust Mark, who's practiced for years. You have to feel this. You've got to chant and be like, I've got so many stories that would blow you away. Like my best friend, I asked him to start chanting. The next day, the postman came, and he had the Buddhist beads that we chant with. He had him round his neck. It was a new postman. He's had the same postman for 15 years. Suddenly it was a new postman. He was like, oh yeah, I practice Buddhism. And these kind of things. And my friend got so scared, he's never practiced his Buddhism again. From that day, he's never practiced it, and it's some people that kind of really realizing how much you can affect change, it can be quite overwhelming and scary. Just to answer Jay earlier, you asked about how it kind of connects to like the practice of, was it esoteric? Let me have a look. It said here.
Esoteric knowledge, yeah.
All right, esoteric knowledge. So for me, Jay, everyone from the Freemasons to all the secret societies to all like religions and Christianity, all of them are trying to yield, in my opinion, the ether, the mystic law, in some way or another, whether it's through black magic, whether it's through rituals, astrologies. For us, it's through chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And it's like, for me, and I'm not saying I've gone and practiced all the secret society, but I'll never need to. For me, this is the most direct and incredible and profound way to experience direct shifts in your life. Like I said, like, you know, chanting and then suddenly your postman comes, that's showing you that something massive is happening. If that can happen, then what's that going to do to my karma, my life, my future? You know, like it's pretty profound, really. You know, I'll give you one other example quickly before we leave, and then I'll answer Tanya's question about where we can find mentors. Another best friend of mine, we're not friends anymore, but he became a Buddhist, and he was a model, but he wanted to get signed and recognized for who he was as a human being instead of just like a coat hanger. So when he started chanting for about 6 months by my side, he became a Buddhist. And then after 6 months of chanting, he got a job with Ted Baker, but Ted Baker wanted to shoot him as a photographer. So he was also a photographer and a model. So basically he's this really handsome black guy. He's only ever been shot for being a handsome black guy. And then after 6 months of chanting with the words written out, I want to be recognized as a human, he got signed by Ted Baker, did a shoot where they were showcasing models that do things. So it was more than just being like a handsome person. And then he had his name all across the United Kingdom on massive billboards. That was actual proof for him. It was like, whoa, he was modeling for like a decade, and nothing like that have ever happened. And then 6 months, and then actually it was outside the Brixton Centre. We actually have a Buddhist centre in Brixton. It was outside the Brixton Centre. After we were chanting for an hour, we walked down the stairs, and there was a phone box, one of them red phone boxes, and his Ted Baker campaign was right outside it. And it was just one of them ones. I was like, I don't want to have to say it, but I told you so. Like, it's not a joke. This is not a joke practice. And that's why they give us so many false joke practices. Most people don't know about this practice, and it's rightly so, because it's hidden, it's low key. They want to give us all of these practices where you just go to the mountain and you chant, and basically you become passive and you don't actively get involved in society. You're not actively, you know, there's so many people, I'll be honest, there's so many Buddhists I look at and I'm like, what are you actually doing? There's no point. You can't just chant as well and pray. You've got to be diving into society and making a change, and, you know, giving your life to transforming it. And Tanya, you said, I think earlier, about how to connect with a mentor. If it's I don't know if you're specifically, I'm going to ask you to unmute, but you don't have to if you don't want to. But I don't know if you're talking about in a Buddhist sense, but if it is, then I definitely recommend starting to learn about Daisaku Ikeda. He passed away on November the 15th, 2023. So if you've not heard of him, you've just missed him, basically. Many people haven't met him. I haven't personally met him. I'll never need to meet him because, again, it's not one I'm idolizing. You know, I don't have photos of him on my wall because I love him or I think he's like a deity. He's just absolutely revealed in his life and the struggles of his life, like how to practice Buddhism. So definitely check into Daisaku Ikeda.
Thank you. I think I'm more wanting how to connect with others who think the same way. I think that's what I'm struggling with at the moment, finding that sense of community and people who think the same. As being a single mom, obviously going through what's happening at the moment. Yeah. It's that sense of community and being able to speak to others who think and want to become enlightened and find a way of getting through everything. It can be quite challenging.
Well, Tanya, first of all, I stand by your side now. Yeah, my whole life with the Ascending Tribe is to create communities. You know, me and Jay met for the first time. You can see him there, Samson. We first met at an Ascending Tribe event where it's so important that we are starting to gather together now and to have each other's numbers and stuff. You know, next blackout comes, we might never see each other. It's like, how do we stay connected? And so, yeah, definitely. There's obviously, I can help you with that. But also what you're doing right now, you just have to have the courage to go into different spaces and be like, do you know what? I resonate with these people. Maybe I don't. Sometimes you have to sit with people for a little while and you realize they're your people, and then suddenly something happens in the news and you're like, oh my God, you're not my people. Like, it's kind of, you know what I mean? Like some new psyop happens and they fall for it and you're like, oh my God, I thought you was like I really trusted you. So, thank you for the courage as well, just for coming here today. And straight now, like if I can help you in any way, to connect, I've got some big WhatsApp groups, and just to start gathering people together is so important.
I think, especially when going through the whole pandemic,
Yeah.
and obviously going to do all the marches and trying to find people, obviously I went
Like-minded.
and I went to many, and finding people who think the same, it was great. But then after that, it kind of fizzled out, and you're like,
Yeah.
like, where do I find my space now? Because I went through this whole spiritual connections, and those people just, just not my people.
No.
There's too much darkness there.
Yeah, and especially in this, I often say it, the spiritual community now is more dangerous than the religious one. It's full of charlatans, egoic people. I truly, like, Ryan's one of my true best friends. Jay, I've only met him a few times, but I can see his integrity. Like, I am so disappointed in the quality of men, like, just in real life and especially in the spiritual communities. It's just basically a load of horny men that just want to drink cacao and have sex. Like, I'm trying, I mean that, like, I swear to God, I'm trying to find the strongest men, and then I find them, and then something lets me down. I'm like, come on, man. It's like, and all I ever want is honest people around me as well. There's so many honest people that can't face themselves. They can't even look themselves in the mirror and be like, do you know what? I fucked up. All I fucking want is just honest warriors. I don't want sharp, sexy, spiritual people around me. I want raw diamonds that I can trust, that are honest, that are going to make 1,000 mistakes, but we make them together and we move forward together. And anyone that's telling you they've got the answer or speaking soft like this, like, no, it's not for me. It's not for me. So
It's not.
yeah, I'm honored to meet you, sister, and I'm by your side now for sure.
Yeah.
And are you based in London, UK? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm North London, and that's what I was going to ask also, like, where are your centres? Like, can you just turn up? How does it work? Is it family orientated? Because obviously I have a young child, and not always
Well, one day,
is it open for children to be there.
Yeah. The best one for you, I don't know if there's a centre in North. There's a centre in West London, but the one I would recommend is like in Brixton. It's my favourite. And there's one in Taplow Court. But one day, I can always just meet you in Brixton, and we can go in there, man, get a patty. I'll take you into the centre. And this is one thing I want you to know, Tanya. Just because I'm taking to the Buddhist Center, don't mean that you're going to find your people there. Far from it. Yeah? No. You're going to find racists, misogynists, dark people even. Yeah, Nichiren and true Buddhism. The reason I'm still here in the SGI after everything that's happened in the world and the pandemic and everything, he strictly told us to follow the law, not the people. Yeah, because you could, like, there's so many people. I see you nodding, Mark. I can imagine you've had some experiences in the SGI, man. Sometimes, you can have like a district leader, and they're like your senior or something, and you're like, you're clapped. What are you talking about? And then people have left the SGI and something like that, and it's because they were, in a sense, they didn't have a deep enough relationship with the actual teachings. And so, I've been surrounded by broken, damaged, racist leaders, actually, if I'm honest, before. But my connection with the law is exactly that. And I'm there to be the change. And also, it's very, like, if I can't change racism and misogynistic energy within an SGI meeting, I can't change it on the global stage. So it's the microcosm of the meeting that I can make a change. And I've done it. I live in Margate, and it's a very racist area, difficult area to live in. So it's that has shown up in some of the leadership there. It's like in meetings, there's certain things that have happened where it's been shocking what they've said. And I've challenged it with as much respect as I can and with as much wisdom after chanting for hours and hours and hours. And I've challenged it within the meeting. And then these people hold positions within society in Margate, and then their attitudes have changed. And I now realize I've made a change in Margate by making a change in this small little meeting. Did you get what I mean? And I could have left and I could have been like, oh, these leaders are like annoying me. But I really take on the responsibility of Daisaku Aikido, which is I have to be the change and these people, just because they're Buddhists and chanting, doesn't mean that they're aware or awake. That most of them don't even know what the occult is. They don't have a clue what Freemasons are doing down the road and all of that. So it's very much, you have to take full responsibility for yourself as well. So I just wanted to say that because you could walk in there and then you'd be like, well, I'll be honest, sometimes since 2020, it's been a bit nervous for me to introduce people to Buddhism because there's this organization which going along with certain government guidelines and stuff. I am the one that will make a change. I will be the nail that sticks up, and I will tell them, I will show them lawfully why what they're doing might be unlawful. All of these things, So I hope that gives you a little bit of an answer.
Thank you.
But just send me a message afterwards, and then maybe we'll if I'm in London, let's go. All of us, if you want to go, let's have a day out at the Buddha Center. Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
But I would love to, and it's important to. Let me check any more thingies. Yes, Mark. Thank you, Lion. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. I'm gonna love you and leave you. Ryan, any final words from a modern day Buddha?
Oh well, thank you for that huge compliment. Honestly, this is whilst what you might be undertaking here might seem big and daunting at the moment, anyone can do it. Everyone is a Buddha already. It's like Michelangelo said, he would get the big block of marble delivered in front of him, and he would say, the statue's already inside it. All I'm doing is getting rid of the bits that we don't need. It's really as simple as that. And the
Wow.
way one particular method that works for us to whittle away that, to reveal that statue, that Buddha statue within, is by chanting, which is incredibly simple verbal meditation, but it does work. I promise you, it really, really does work. So I'm just saying, like, before you start to think, oh my God, I can't possibly be a Buddha, I can't possibly reach that particular state of being, you can, because everyone who has done it is someone exactly like everyone in this Zoom room right now talking.
Yeah.
You know, no one was born with like an extra hemisphere of their brain or like two hearts or anything weird like that. They were just a regular human being. So it can be done. It can absolutely be done.
It really can. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, 21 days, Kate, if you can, and be selfish with them, you know, dreams. Like say to the universe, show me irrefutable proof that this is a profound practice. Show me. I'm not wasting my time. I'm not listening to Indigo. Just show me. Yeah, it's that level of confidence you need with yourself. Keep your eyes open. Don't ever worry about how you pronounce it. Yeah, try your best, of course. But I've known people that have, you know, when they say you're dumb when you've got no tongue. I've known people with no tongue, and they're like, nyam, 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 nyam. It's the intention, man. It's the intention. Yeah, most importantly. So don't ever think, oh, if you're saying it off or wrong. It's as long as you're sitting there, the whole universe is within you, and it knows what you're doing. It knows what I go on. Trust me. Yeah, I love you all. Just thank you for your courage to be here. Thank you for just being reflections of me, honestly. And yeah, I'll be so next Saturday I'm actually doing an Ascending Tribe retreat, so I might not be here next Saturday, but I'll make sure that I put out a post and tell you guys when the next one is as soon as possible. And like I said, from now on, every week it's going to be more like this. So a discussion like me and Ryan, if you're here, or whoever. But I think Ryan will be as much as he can. But if you can try and read chapter 2 by next week, because I won't be going through the entire thing for copyright reasons, like I said. But I think if I'm honest, this is how you actually develop stronger leaders, so that you're coming back and then we discuss and go deeper together. Is that all cool? Guys, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful Saturday. Have a beautiful Sunday. Mark, Sally, Kate, Tanya, Jay, and King Ryan. Let's chant 3 times together. Yeah, I'm gonna just call it Sancho. Okay, so when you chant 3 times. Nam yo ho renge kyo. Nam yo ho renge kyo. Nam yo ho renge kyo. Amazing, guys. And next week we're going to touch on like the Gohonzon, what we actually chant to, where we'll talk about why we don't actually pray, for instance, to statues like in many other faiths. We pray to something which actually represents everything from Buddhahood to hell, because it's all within you. Yeah, instead of praying to some statue, because if you're praying to a statue, you might as well believe in that white Jesus, man. Come save me, save me. Yeah, and that's not us. So I love you guys. Yeah, see you later and have a beautiful Saturday. Mwah.